Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about putting a stop to procrastination. And, here on this slide, we have this picture of somebody standing at an arrow, and on the arrow it says, start now. So procrastination makes it hard for us to move forward. So we're going to talk about things we can do to help us overcome that lack of inertia.
Yeah, so let's talk about why we procrastinate, right? There are a lot of theories, right? People have a lot of theories, thoughts on why people procrastinate. So, we need to look at our own patterns, right? And realize what those stumbling blocks are that keep us from starting an assignment early, or from, doing a task that we might not enjoy, but getting started early. So, throughout the presentation, we'll share some of these stumbling blocks and some possible solutions that might work for you as well.
And the photo on the right here, it just shows this guy, he's drawing words, and on the bottom it says next week, then tomorrow, and then later, and then now, and next week, tomorrow, and later are crossed out, and the word now is circled. So just to emphasize the idea that we want to move forward. So one of the first thoughts about procrastination is this concept that the present self and the future self are at odds with each other when you're trying to achieve things. So like on the photo on the left, the guy's looking at himself in the mirror, and it's just, and he doesn't look very happy. He's kind of got an angry look on his face. And so the idea here is that when you set a goal in your life, that goal is for your future self, the part of you that isn't here yet, right? And your current self or your present self prefers to have something right here, right now. And so the future self wants to manifest this long-term goal, but the present self wants to do something fun. It wants to be in the now. And so the present self is the one that has to take the action, okay? You have to take a step now to work towards your goal, but the part of you now just wants to have fun and relax and enjoy. And so it's sort of like the future self and the present self are kind of working at odds, because you don't necessarily right now, you're not going to get what that goal is, because you have to work towards it. And so one of the first areas of procrastination is really understanding that need for immediate gratification, like right now I want what I want, gets in the way of taking a step towards a goal.
Yeah, definitely. And when we procrastinate, we're avoiding these uncomfortable feelings, and it's normal. And I guess the question is why, right? Because some of these tasks are boring. We don't like doing them. They're uncomfortable, they're hard, they're frustrating. And as a student, we have many non-preferred tasks that are boring. That's just the way it is, right? We can't get around it, right? So when we're doing some of these non-preferred boring tasks, right? Even as a college student, the brain center for pain lights up when you're faced with an uncomfortable task. So that part of your brain that triggers whenever you feel pain is also triggers when you're faced with an uncomfortable task, such as an essay or an exam or something that's not something you jump up and give each other high fives for when it's assigned, right? And it's natural for us as humans to avoid what doesn't feel good, right? So we're avoiding that feeling of not pain, but that feeling of just having to do that non-preferred task or that boring task. And we avoid what doesn't feel good. So think about a task you often avoid. How does it make you feel? And how do you feel about that? And what do you feel about a pleasant task as well? So compare the two, right? So in my situation, right now we got taxes coming up. That's a non-preferred task. that I have to do, right? And I'm just putting it off till May 27th, which is the last day that we have, right? So I'm putting off, taxes until the very last minute because it's a non-preferred, boring task that I do not like to do, right? And then I think about when, a pleasant task that I shared earlier with you all, like playing Xbox. I don't even have to think about it. I'll just put on my headphones and I could be tired. I could be tired and done. And as soon as I put on my, my headphones and I turn on my Xbox, I light up. And so it's just, comparing the two. So you as students, you think about how you feel about a non-preferred task versus a pleasant task.
It's important. It's important. For me, I always think about housework. Like, I hate cleaning the bathtubs, man. It's like,
but it's not going to clean itself, right?
I don't know what's going on with the font on the PowerPoint. It's difficult, but when you start to understand that the reason that you're avoiding is because you're trying to avoid the feelings, that's the first step towards overcoming that challenge. So the next thing is rabbit hole activities. And we have a picture on the left here of a candy rabbit poking out of a hole. And, rabbit hole activities are something that distracts you. And I'm sure the first thing that's coming to your mind is my phone. And yes, your phone is definitely a rabbit hole activity because you say, oh, let me just see who texted me. But then you need to text back. And then there's 3 texts that you have to text. And you, all of a sudden, before you know it, you've spent 45 minutes on your phone. So rabbit hole activities are things that you impulsively engage in because you just can't resist. So like another rabbit hole activity for me is if my cat jumps up on my lap or she walks in the room, oh, I must pet her. I have to stop and I have to pet the cat. And then, oh my gosh, now she's on my lap and I can't really use my computer well when she's on my lap, So for me, it's distracting when she's around. And so it's important for me that I keep her out of the room when I'm working. Sometimes rabbit hole activities can be things you engage in for hours and hours. It sounds like Ramon's got a good handle on his Xbox habit, but I have had students in the past tell me I can't resist playing my video games. And before I know it, I've spent 6 or 8 hours playing games. And then suddenly now they don't have time to do their assignments. They really use up the time. So it's more than just procrastinating. It's really gone now to the point of, you're not going to have enough time to get it done. So it's important to identify what these things are and come up with strategies so you don't get tempted by these activities.
Yeah, and these non-preferred tasks can feel overwhelming. Right? You may not know where to begin. You don't think you can accomplish it, right? If you don't know where to begin, how are you going to finish, right? You may be afraid to ask for help. And of course, the anxiety increases the more you ignore the task, right? So the more you put it off, it's still there in the back of your mind. You have to, submit this assignment, or you have to study for this exam, or you have an assignment due at this day, and you just keep putting it off, and the anxiety just keeps increasing. As the deadline looms, you try to forget it. As the deadline gets closer, you try to forget it even more, because you just want to avoid that task that causes it anxiety, that's non-preferred, and it may just be boring, right? These are the tough assignments you often never even start, right? And it's tough. It's tough when you don't start the assignment, because if you don't start it, you can't finish, and you end up like this young lady, and in this picture, and that was me in community college taking math classes. That was me, literally right there without the laptop. I didn't have a laptop back then, but this was me. This was me right here. You see the calculator right there to the right, like the crumbled up papers. Like, it's just the anxiety would just take over, and the hard part was just getting started. I think the hard part for all of us is just getting started. And once we figure out how to get started and get into a rhythm, we all get into that zone, right, as students. So I think just getting started and figuring out how to get into that zone is really important when the task feels overwhelming.
Yeah, so for our students with visual disabilities, the picture on the right has the picture of a woman with her head down on a table, and the table has a bunch of papers, laptop, crumpled paper, and she looks very overwhelmed. So executive function challenges. I don't know how many of you have ever heard this term, but when somebody is like a executive in a corporation, they have an executive assistant. That's somebody who keeps them organized, makes their appointments, tells them what they need to do, things like that. And so your executive function in your brain is your ability to keep yourself organized. And not everybody can do this. Some people come by it naturally, and some people have to learn it. And some people, even no matter what they do, they still struggle. And so it's really important to figure out some strategies that'll help. But people who have executive function challenges need to be aware of how that's going to impact their procrastination, because sometimes it's not about the feelings, it's not about wanting to do it. It's that the person just really doesn't know where to start. I recently did a webinar about executive function where the person teaching said, I asked a student, okay, so what do you need to do? And the student says, I need to do my homework. And she says, okay, well, what do you need to do first? And the student said, I need to do my homework. And she says, yes, I know, but what's the first step? And he said, I just need to do my homework. And he couldn't even identify the first thing, which might be like pulling out the planner and seeing, what do I have to do, right? To figure out, prioritize. So when you understand that, and you might have problems with what's called static organization. So that's basically, putting everything into a planner and then making sure you check it to know what you need to do. Dynamic organization is when you get balls thrown into your court. This happens to Ramon and I all the time. We think we know what we're going to do in a day, and something unexpected happens, and we have to help a student in a crisis situation. Then you have to reorganize on the fly. So there's two different kinds of way of being organized. And a lot of people struggle when they have dynamic organizations. So a lot of things are changing, and now they have to put it into a to-do list, prioritize it, figure out when they're going to get it done. A lot of people have trouble making that transition. And so if that's a challenge for you, it's important to reach out for help so that you can either learn how to do it or get ongoing support each week to make sure you know how to get things done. And the photo on the left just shows this clock that's sort of disintegrating into hundreds of little clocks. It's kind of a surreal image, and it just basically conveys the concept of time getting lost.
So, having a lot of time can also have a negative impact on procrastinating, right? So if your timeline is too long, you're less likely to start the project. I know a lot of times students get like 2 weeks to complete an assignment or to complete a take-home essay. It's really easy to say, I got 2 weeks, I'll put it off till next week. It's the easiest thing to do, right? Especially if it's an unpopular topic or one of these non-preferred tasks that we keep talking about. It's almost all the time, long essays, long assignments that you have to really do a lot of research, and you have to do outlines, and so these long assignments that take a lot of time. And having too much time can also, trigger that procrastination, and you're putting it off to the last minute. How you understand the time of completion, and when it's due, but you just keep putting it off to the side. and that can be a huge challenge as well. I meet with students all the time that say, I've had 2 weeks to complete the assignment. I've had 3 weeks to complete the assignment. Now, I'm freaking out because I haven't even started the assignment. And it's tough. It's tough when you put yourself in that situation. And to get out of that situation can also cause a lot of anxiety and stress as well. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes when you have too much time, that can also work as a disadvantage. So creating some strategies to maybe start the assignment early and whatnot will definitely help with putting it off to the last minute. It's better to be done a week early than to be done an hour early, so just something to keep in mind as well.
So just thinking about all these things we're sharing, keep in mind, what are your issues with procrastination? What is causing you to not get started and get stuff done? Because now we're going to talk about how to stop procrastination, and how you stop it is dependent on what's causing it. So the first thing that you want to do is, if you have this issue that you're impulsive, you want what you want now. It's hard to be patient. You want to feel good now. It's hard to reach towards that goal. Is you need to reconcile your present and future self. And now we have a picture of a girl looking in a mirror, and she looks happy. And she's looking at herself, and she's happy because everything's in sync and working in the right direction. So in order to do this, in order to reconcile your present and future selves, you need to convince your present self to take action on something that it doesn't feel like it's going to benefit from right now. So it's almost like you kind of have to trick yourself in a way. You need to find ways to make it important to act now instead of waiting until later. So here's some ways to do that. The first is temptation bundling, where you combine a desired activity and an undesired activity. For example, perhaps you have to read, and it's really boring and you've been putting it off. Well, maybe you go read outside in a hammock, or you go to the beach, grab a beach chair and go sit at the beach and read your homework. So now you're doing something you like to do with something you really don't want to do. And that can be helpful in getting something done. Another thing can be habit stacking. So for example, after I study for an hour, I'm going to eat lunch. So the hour before lunch, I always study. Or maybe you have a class you don't like. Statistics, perhaps. That's probably the least liked class, don't you think, Grandma?
It's a popular one.
Yeah. So maybe what you do is you say, I'm always going to do my statistics homework before I go out on a date with my girlfriend, boyfriend, or significant other. And so you always say, like, I got to get done before I go do that. So you basically put things in sequence that you kind of pairing them with something you really want to do with something you really are avoiding. The other thing is to set up accountability. And I know this is really hard in a virtual environment because it's harder to reach your classmates, but that's the best way to do it, is creating a study group. So you see other people doing it, it gets you to do it. And if you don't have the ability to set up a study group, then maybe having somebody in your household who you can say, hey, this is my goal to do this. Can you check on me and just encourage me and remind me? So setting up accountability. And finally, planning a reward. So, that's one I was talking about, like, what's your favorite thing to do after finals? But I remember when I was in college after finals, we always we would have like a finals and the finals party, or sometimes my girlfriends and I, we would save up our money in the semester, and after all our finals were done, we would go shopping, and that was like our fun thing to say, we got through it and we're done. But you can do little awards each week. Like with my kids, sometimes to get them through homework, I tell them I'll take them to get some frozen yogurt if they get so many hours of homework done. And so it's not always best to do that with food. Sometimes you do what you got to do to get it done. So those are some ways that you can reconcile your present and future selves to get yourself to act now.
So now let's talk about how to manage some of these uncomfortable feelings. This is an emotion management issue, right? Learning to manage your emotions can be an extremely difficult task, especially getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Getting out of your comfort zone is one of the hardest things you can ever do in any point of your life. Any point of your life. I know Bonnie and I, sometimes we have to deal with uncomfortable situations, but we grow and we learn from it. Every day at work and every day as a student, you do the same. It's also harder to focus and to get in your zone when you're in a bad mood about something else, right? So really take that into consideration when you're going to, work on an assignment, a homework assignment. You're going to study for an exam. Try to avoid a situation that's going to put you in a bad mood before you start getting into whatever assignment you may be. If you know that you are going to reach out to somebody and it's going to turn into an argument or it's going to put you in a bad mood, then try to avoid that person or that activity or whatever it may be before you study, especially if you know that it's going to put you in a bad mood. Sometimes you may need to just, I don't want to say block, but maybe just completely avoid some people, avoid some of these situations that are going to put you in that mood so you could really focus and acknowledge what you don't like about an unfavored task. It might be, doing the reading part, like Bonnie said earlier, the reading might be difficult for you. So getting up and getting some fresh air and reading outside might be a good idea. So just acknowledge what you don't like about the task, and then knowing what you don't like about the task will help you deal with whatever, with that task, or help you deal with that uncomfortable feeling. So, just take that into consideration. Your feelings do have a big impact on the way you perform when you're studying for an exam or when you're doing your homework.
Mm-hmm. Oops, sorry. Went the wrong way there. Great. So another thing to help manage those uncomfortable feelings is to visualize yourself completing the task. And I don't know why, Bridget, when I see this picture, it makes me think of you. Doesn't it look like Bridget?
That's cute.
It is cute. And, all happy and like, look at me, I did it.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
So imagine what it feels like to get done. I mean, really, I'm not even saying just in a second, like really sit there and see yourself being done, see what it feels like, and say, wow, that's going to be such a relief. I do this when my kids avoid their homework and then they do when they get it done. I always say, well, what are you feeling like now? How do you feel that it's done? So that they really can, I say, now remember that next time you procrastinate, you can get to this feeling faster if you just do it. Right? So breaking the tasks into shorter time periods. So if you have something you really hate to do, and like I've told people before that I've gone back to school and I have to write these books about APA writing, academic writing. They are so dry. Man, I do it in 20-minute bursts. Just do it in short periods of time, but then make yourself get it done. Do your most unpleasant task first. If you have statistics, do that homework first, get it out of the way. So then you can get on to the things that are easier to do. And that's some of that habit coupling, okay, I'm going to do statistics first, and then I'm going to move into psychology or whatever you prefer. Trying to avoid stress, as Ramon was saying, stress makes it more uncomfortable. And if you have that kind of stress, just understand that it contributes to the desire to procrastinate, because any feelings you're having associated with procrastinating are going to be amplified because you're already having emotions about other things. If this is an issue where you have a lot of stress and you have an environment that's difficult to be in, it is helpful to seek out counseling. You can reach out to CAPS And if you feel like you need more than what they offer you, they can help you find a local therapist, because sometimes managing the stress is the key to helping with procrastination. And using a favored task as a reward to motivate you. This may sound so silly, but when I do things I don't want to do, I get to go out and smell my roses. I mean, it sounds silly, but even for 5 minutes, I just go outside and see that. That's like my thing. I go in the garden and lots of flowers in the garden, and just to go out there for 5 minutes revives me, and then I come back and I keep doing what I need to do. So it doesn't have to be a big reward. It could just be something that, okay, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go do that. And I know that that's going to feel good. So.
Yeah, and resisting rabbit hole activities. So you try to use some solutions, focus strategies to manage some of these distractions and to be able to avoid them. Setting boundaries with friends and family who interrupt. We're at home, right? Especially this last school year, we've been at home. Family is there. You got maybe annoying brothers and sisters. Just people that interrupt constantly. So maybe setting boundaries with them, letting them know, hey, from 10 to 12 this morning, I will be working on an assignment. Please just leave me alone. Just please let me focus on my homework, and then at 12 we can do something together, or just setting those boundaries, letting them know, like, hey, I'm serious about this. Sometimes family doesn't really take that serious, and they do it more on purpose because they know it's bugging you. So maybe setting those boundaries, letting them know, like, I need this time for homework, for studying. Please let me get this done. This one was a big one for me when I was a student, putting the game console in another room. And I did that as a college student. Every semester I would put my Xbox away. Tears were coming down my eyes, but I would do it because I needed to take care of my business. I was a student, I was working, and when I was in grad school, I was an intern as well. So I was doing a lot of things. I didn't have time to play games. So in order for me to get my work done, I would look at my assignment, and then I would look over to the left, and my Xbox was just there, like, telling me, come on, come play me. So at the end, I had to just unplug the thing. I put it back in the box, and I put it away in the closet. And I would do that every semester, and it helped me, honestly. And that was and then when the semester ended, I didn't feel like I really needed to go and play it that much. It was like an addiction, right? You get over it, and then but over the summer, I would take it back out and I would play and I would treat myself. It was kind of like the rewards that Bonnie mentioned earlier. That was my reward. Is to set up my Xbox and have some time for me to do what I want to do. But I knew first thing was first: homework, turn in my assignments, school, work, and then family. Right? We have a lot of different responsibilities.
Yeah.
Set do not disturb on your phone. That can be something that is probably the hardest thing for us to do today in 2021. This wasn't so relevant back when I was, when I first started college. We still had flip phones back then, and things, it was different. It was different when I was a student. I still had a flip phone like 3 years ago. I barely got into the smartphone, and I could see how addicting it is to stay on that phone and to go on and look at Facebook and and just. So maybe setting do not disturb on your phone can help, or turning it off and just putting it away somewhere. You'll see that'll help. And then you can also watch the minimize distractions and maximize study time workshop that we have available as part of our virtual school survival workshop. So go in there and check that one out as well. I'll give you some great tips to minimize distractions.
On that one, I love that they have that app. We talked about that app where you can grow the tree, and if you use your phone, it kills the tree. Remember, and if you grow enough trees, they plant real trees. That's a great way to avoid using your phone.
Yep.
Okay, manage overwhelming tasks. So, this is really important, especially if you're a freshman and you're not used to some of these bigger projects that you have to do in college. If you're not sure how to tackle some of these bigger assignments, get help. You can go to the tutoring center. If it's a paper, you can go to the writing center. If it's a presentation, you can go to the writing center and create a project plan. And we did a workshop on, we've done that, how to get organized. And basically you need to list out all the steps that you need to do. Like in the picture on the left, it has like a to-do list, and you have each step of your project and what you need to get done. And then you kind of estimate how much time it's going to take you to do each thing. And then you actually put it in your calendar. So you put it in like an appointment. On Thursday at 10 a.m., I'm going to write the outline for my paper. On Friday at 2 p.m., I'm going to do my research, and you set your times. And honestly, visualize yourself being done. If you're having a hard time getting started on the tasks, or even getting started on creating a plan to tackle the big project, really think about, okay, if I can just get through it, this is what I'm going to feel like turning this into the professor. It doesn't have to feel overwhelming. If you're not sure where to reach out for help, then email us and we'll give you some campus resources. Okay? So don't let the overwhelm be the emotion that you're trying to avoid, because oftentimes it is the one that you're trying to avoid.
And turn dynamic into static organization. So list everything you need to get done this week. Like Bonnie said, bust out your calendar. It could be a chalkboard like the calendar that we see here. It could be a written one. It could be a virtual one that you have on your phone. Whatever calendar you have, prioritize a task for that week. It's really important when you have that visual. We as professionals, Bonnie and I, we rely heavily on our calendar for reminders. Sometimes we forget, and there's things on there that are really important, and the calendar kind of gives us that little reminder. It's like, hey, hey Ramon, hey Bonnie, you got this to do today at 2. Don't forget. So then it kind of prepares you mentally, like, okay, I need to, and the first thing I do, and I'm pretty sure Bonnie does this as well, is you wake up and you open your calendar to see what you have planned for that day.
Yep.
So you can mentally prepare yourself. Okay, so I have this meeting, with my director at 2 p.m. So you really got to mentally prepare yourself for this meeting. So it's really important, and it helps you, stay organized as well, and set a time period needed to complete each task. You don't want to overwhelm yourself as well. Like Bonnie mentioned earlier, sometimes 20-minute bursts work. You're chipping away at the assignment. You're chipping away. It's not just sitting there waiting for the last minute to be all done in one shot. That can be really stressful and cause a lot of anxiety. If you're just chipping away at it, 20 minutes and then 10-minute break, or 20 minutes and then another 20 minutes, you'll see little by little, wow, you already got your intro done. You already got your first body paragraph done. You already got, and you're starting to see that it's starting to build, or starting to look into an assignment. You can also create a study calendar. Let me go back to the setting a time period to complete a task. So it doesn't always have to be at home. All right. It doesn't always have to be at home. You can be, let me give you an example. When I was a student, I used to work, right? Like, well, I still work, but I used to have a fast food job. I used to work at a Subway. So I used to take my my homework with me, and I used that 45-minute hour lunch break, whatever I decided to take that day, because I kind of ran the show there, so I could take a little longer lunch if I needed. But I would take my homework with me, and during lunch, I'd make myself a little sandwich, and I would sit down, put my headphones on, and I would study or practice or maybe work on one of my tasks during lunch. And it felt so good when I got that task done during lunch, and I would go back to work for my second part of my shift, and I felt like, okay, I got this done. This was my goal. I was going to write, my outline during my lunch, and then I got it done. So that's one less task that you got done, and it didn't disrupt your other activities that you had going on that day, or your other priorities, such as work. So just something to keep in mind. You can also, find, and also I commuted a lot as a college student. I know due to COVID, maybe commuting hasn't been so popular, but as a student, I commuted to, I used to live in Fillmore, from Fillmore to Ventura. So, the bus ride from there to Ventura was about an hour. You would always see me I guarantee you 90% of the time, unless somebody came up to me and started talking to me that I knew, I would be working on homework, using that downtime, to my advantage. When I was on the train going to, for graduate school from Camarillo or Oxnard to LA, oh my God, I got some of my best work done on that train, on that downtime. I just put my headphones on and opened the laptop and just, got to work, because it was a good downtime for me to really focus. So think about that too, when you're just chilling and you have some downtime and you're not really doing anything. You can use that time to plug something in as well, plug in a small assignment. Maybe you can get a chapter done of your reading during that downtime as well. So just something to keep in mind from my personal experience. Creating a study calendar as well, plugging in certain times when you want to study, and be diligent about following the plan. I mean, if you create the plan and don't follow through, there's, it's not really a point to it, right? You want to be diligent and follow the plan, and, get help. If you can't do this, get help. With there's plenty of resources here on campus where somebody can sit down with you and really help you organize and a calendar and stay focused and whatnot. So, keeping your task and setting dates to accomplish these tasks and following through is really important.
They actually have programs on campus where you could get a mentor to help you with this. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Ramon or myself, and we'll connect you with those resources.
Yeah, definitely. You can always reach out to us.
So, so really, I think this one is so important, shortening a long timeline. So start your projects and papers as soon as possible. Shoot for an earlier due date. Give yourself a cushion at the end. Maybe something unexpected will happen. Like sometimes you're doing a paper and you can't find the research you need, and then you end up having to meet with a librarian. So a part of the project may take longer than expected. And so really planning to get done early and break everything down into those micro tasks, the smaller tasks. I had a student last semester who did this and got done early with school because there were no finals, just papers, and the student was done 2 weeks early. So you can do it if you plan it and just really, focus on, kind of make it a game. How much time can I have at the end? Like, think about how much quicker you're going to have that feeling of accomplishment that you finished your project. So it's really important also to keep a to-do list. You want to do this one, Ramon?
Sorry, you kind of froze on your end, Bonnie. I didn't see when you switched over.
Okay. Can you see it now?
No, it's still on the turn dynamic into, okay, hold on, let me see here. So keeping a to-do list, I have it pulled up on mine. It froze on your screen for some reason, Bonnie. So creating a master to-do list for all tasks is important. I know we've been touching on this, using calendars is a big help, and will definitely help you, write down all your tips, all your tasks. So create a master calendar for everything you need to do that week, and then you can also make a daily to-do list. So you can break down the master to-do list into smaller tasks that you want to complete for that day, and you can kind of work it around your schedule. And then prioritize the daily task that you have to do. Those are really important. And check them off as you're doing them. You're gonna see that once you check it off or you cross it off, whatever you're doing, it's an awesome feeling when okay, I got this done, and then you go on to the next task. It's kind of like that same feeling when you finally hit submit, right, and you finally turn in that assignment, and it's like you can just feel the stress and the anxiety just for now, right? Until the next assignment. So you just feel it kind of go away, and then you have that day or a couple days to really celebrate before you need to really get back on the grind, right? Or back on that horse and continue doing what you do. Or you might have to move on to the next task. So check them off, and, you know, give yourself a small reward when you do check them off too, as well. You know, like Bonnie mentioned earlier, go for a walk, go out and check your flowers, or, you know, if you have your Xbox can get a little out of hand because you can't really do 5-10 minute sessions. You know, before you know it, you're into it for hours. But, you know, just check social media or whatever you want to do for a couple minutes, and then get back on you know, on the grind. You could also watch our how to get organized workshop. So again, we have tons of different workshops on different topics that you can review, and you can get information about you know, some of these topics that apply to you as a student and in this virtual environment. So keeping that to-do list is really important.
Yes, we have this YouTube channel that we've been creating over the last year, and we record these sessions and upload them. And so the URL, tinyurl.com/VSSS videos. So for the virtual school survival skills. And we have a lot of workshops about, you know, avoiding distractions, how to get organized. We actually did a workshop in, was it January or February of this year on how to create a study schedule, where we take you through step by step how to figure out what do I need to do, how much time is it going to take, and how to plug it into a calendar. And so it's difficult to be organized, but a lot of times, if at least you know when you have to do it, and you don't want to do it, at least you know, okay, I have this space of time, and then this is what I'm going to have to do to prepare myself mentally, so I will get it done at that time. Oh, thanks for coming, Tushar. If you send one of us an email, we can send you the resources. That'd be great. Okay, so so that's all we have on procrastination today. I did want to remind everybody, on Monday at 10 a.m. we're going to have a virtual coffee for the diverse dolphins. I'd love to see everybody there. It's just a great opportunity for everybody to chat and you know, have a good conversation, and you know, just to enjoy having some time with people away from actual school stuff. So I'd love to see you there. I did, when I sent the link this morning for this event, I added the link, and I'll send another reminder before that event. And then next week, we're actually going to have the Pete mentors are going to come do a workshop for us, tips for communicating with professors, which is really important. You know, how do you talk to them in office hours? How do you communicate with email? What do you do when they don't respond to your email? Things like that. So that's going to be really, really worthwhile. And then the following week, Ramona and I will help you with strategies to prep for your finals. So we're going to talk about how to study for your finals, and some calming strategies to reduce any anxiety you might have as you approach finals. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. Thank you, guys.